Meet Elizabeth and Ronald Arthur. They're both in their early 80s and have been married for 65 years. Their home, in a typical Aussie suburban street, is filled to the brim with photos of their 7 children, 20 grandchildren and 35 great-grandchildren. They look like an average older couple, but they're not. Ask them about their childhood and you'll soon hear shocking stories about an infancy, adolescence and youth filled with horrific physical, emotional, psychological and sexual abuse. Ron and Elizabeth are just 2 of well over 500,000 Australians, known collectively as Forgotten Australians or care leavers. If you haven't heard of a Forgotten Australian or a care leaver before, you're not alone.
Care leavers and Forgotten Australians are people who grew up in Australia's 800 plus orphanages, children's homes and foster care and other institutions.
According to the 2004 Senate Committee report, Forgotten Australians or care leavers suffered emotional, physical and sexual abuse and assault whilst in institutional care. Many mothers in Australia and the UK placed their children in institutional care because they were widowed or deserted after the First or Second World Wars, suffered from TB, had mental health issues, or were so poor they couldn't afford food.
I think many parents thought that their children would be well cared for. You know, the churches and charities had such glowing names and reputations.
Many parents thought of state care as a temporary measure and reclaimed their children when they were able. However, in the UK, when some parents came to claim their children, they found their children had been put on a boat and sent out to Australia without their consent or knowledge. These children are collectively known as child migrants. Many child migrants were told they could not return home because their parents no longer loved or wanted them. Some Indigenous mothers had their children forcibly removed and placed in institutional care. Those children are now known as the stolen generation. Forgotten Australians or care leavers lived as children in institutional care from the early 1900s to the mid-1980s. Some have already entered care homes and more will require care home services in the future. However, many Forgotten Australians associate residential aged care with the type of institutional care they received as children.
I wouldn't have it. I'd say I wouldn't go in the home and that's it. I've been locked up when I was a kid. I don't want to be locked up again.
But I wouldn't really recommend a place like this for anybody. I just hated it and it reminded me very much of the orphanage, bringing back thoughts. But you're just a nobody. That's how I felt, just a nobody.
According to a 2011 Clan survey, only 1% of care leavers want to live in a care home.
Well, I found out by the child welfare that I was left on the doorstep at a church in Manly. I was handed over to the child welfare to the baby's home. I don't know which home it was, but a baby's home. And I was put out for adoption. A woman adopted me in Cabramatta when I was a baby, but she handed me back. And after that, I was sent out to another woman, babies. And I don't know her name, but they didn't have me for long and they sent me back. Then I was sent out to a Mrs. Ferguson at Northmead. She kept me till I was about 7. She was a very cruel woman. She used to give you the strap and everything in the bath. The cat and nine tails.
Sadly, this pattern of removal, loss, abandonment and abuse was one that would follow Ronald his entire childhood.
And 2 women came from the child welfare to take me back And that's when they took me down to Royalston Boys' Home at Glebe Point Road, Glebe. It's like a prison, because it was a prison, really. You know, big brick walls around, big metal gates covered, you know, and barbed wire around the top. So Royalston was like a jail. They put to the work, polishing floors and all that, the dormitories and that.
Ron's wife Elizabeth was left as a 2-year-old with her 1-year-old baby sister Peg at Burnside Presbyterian Orphans Home in Sydney.
And then that day, I can still remember it, my sister and I, Peg, were put in a home, an orphanage. Not knowing what it was, but I could walking up the path and I could see all these kids looking at us. And Peg was just walking then. And they took us inside and sat Peg on the table. And I'm just standing there, nearly wetting my pants, which I often did.
We were taken, I don't know who took us to the orphanage, but we were taken to the orphanage because we were both born down near Melbourne, or close to Melbourne. We don't know anything about that. I was in an orphanage for 14 years.
Peg, like many children in care, had her name changed by institution staff.
And they said, Peg, oh, look, Peg, oh, isn't she a little cutie? She's like a little Asian girl. Then they said, oh, she's like Anna May Wong. She was an actress in those days. Oh, let's call her Emma May, you know.
Elizabeth, like many children in care, was numbered.
We all had a number. Mine was always 17. Every house I went to, it was 17. There's always something they say we do wrong, but it's not wrong. And if anyone was naughty and stole something, they'd ask every girl who did it, and nobody owned up. So we were all put across the lounge, bare bum, and got smacked with cat and iron tails. You know, and we all got it, whether we did wrong or not. One matron, she was the nasty one, Maggie Rowe. She was a cruel one. She used to get you by the ear and drag you around and kick you in the ankles. And yeah, we'd have marks, bruises, but you didn't see, once you put your clothes on, you didn't see bruises, did you?
Life at Burnside for little Elizabeth had other unique cruelties.
But I remember, because we were so nervous, we used to wet our pants sometimes, and if you wet your pants, she'd make you take them off and rub it in your face.
Wetting the bed at night was also met with severe punishment for many children.
Or you'd have to get up and put you under the cold shower. You know, get up, and then we'd have to try and take the sheet off and rinse it out ourselves. But we're only little kids. When we were kids, if you were naughty, you were locked in the linen cupboard, put in the linen cupboard in the dark, petrified. So that's why I never lock me doors if I go to bed and things like that.
Elizabeth lived and went to school within the walls of Burnside. She left the grounds once a year to see the dentist and when she required medical treatment. Ronald doesn't ever recall ever seeing a doctor or a dentist. He lost all his teeth at a young age. At 15, Elizabeth was removed from the school to become the kitchen maid at Burnside.
So I had to do all the cooking for the kids and the matrons, and polish the stove, polish the floors, scrub the floors, get all the teas ready and do all the cooking for about 20 or 30 kids.
I can't read or write. I can write, but I can't read and or spell like a little man, you know, because of the lack of no education. And his wife turned around and she said, Betty, since we married, she's been taught me and teaching me. I couldn't even write my own name.
Ron claims he was sexually assaulted by his Royalston teacher, Mr. Cross.
And I didn't know what he wanted to do or anything. And that's what he started to interfere with me. I told the superintendent of the home but I heard no more about it, of course. I just cried, you know. There's not much you can do because the point is this, that you was there on your own anyhow.
A week later, Mr. Cross was transferred to another boys' home. Sadly, Ron's childhood sexual assault is not an isolated event. Many, like Ronald, never told the police.
After that, I went to Yarra Bay, then back to Royalston, then from Royalston to Berry.
Berry was a training farm where state wards were taught farming skills. Ronald was 12 when he was sent to Berry.
I had to get up at 5 o'clock, then go and milk the cows. There was about 140 cows. There was about 6 of us go and milk them, and the rest had to feed the potties, you know. I found out, you know, I was a good milker and all that, and farm work. Then they sent me back to Royalston. And that's where I was boarded out.
Foster parents were paid to keep state wards in their homes and treat them like their own children. In reality, many boys like Ronald were trained in an area like farming and then boarded out to farmers as free labour.
They took me out and on the back veranda. They said, there's a room there, but it was just a bag heshing and one of them foal beds. And he said, that's where you'll be sleeping. So that's where I slept. I remember once they took me to Forbes, and so their kids can go to the pictures, but I had to sit on the back of the ute while they visit their relatives. And it was a hot day, and I hopped off the ute, the truck, to have a drink of water out of the tap, and he saw me, and he came out and whacked me across the ears and said, get on that truck and don't move, stay there. I had to sit there all afternoon while the kids went to the pictures, and that played on my mind.
Ronald was boarded out to several other farming foster families. He always worked the farm, slept outside, and was never included in the family. At 15, Ronald's last foster placement was with the Ingham family, where he and up to 10 other welfare children worked on the Ingham's egg farm.
But you're never allowed out or anything like that. You just to work 7 days a week. That's how he made his money off us. You know, he was getting paid by the government for each boy.
At 16, Ronald ran away. Although officially state wards until the age of 21, most were ejected from care at about 15 or 16, with little or no post-care support. Forgotten Australians have many unique issues because of their traumatic, institutionalised childhoods. For example, as children they had little contact with the outside world, so as adults they had no idea how to function in the community.
When I first met Ron, he was drunk. I didn't know what that was, drunk. And I said to Gladys, oh, what's wrong with him? Oh, he's drunk. Because he goes, geez, right, you go carrying on like that. And I say, what's wrong with him? Oh, he's drunk, you know. So that's the first time I never seen a drunk, because we were locked up in this home and never saw the outside world.
Because care leavers weren't given love or affection as children, as adults they may not express emotions appropriately.
Me, I didn't have any emotions because I wasn't taught that way. It was yes ma'am, no ma'am, 3 bags, 4 ma'am, you know.
Our needs were invisible as children. So as you grow up, you feel an invisible person and you don't feel entitled to say to somebody, stop doing that.
Care leavers may not speak up when they dislike something. They may find it difficult to relate to others. Many forgotten Australians learnt not to trust people as children because they were always let down.
Care leavers and forgotten Australians have huge issues with trust. They don't trust the churches. They definitely don't trust the charities. And they definitely don't trust state governments and people in authority like the police.
Sometimes I don't think they understand, you know, me, or I suppose that other people just don't understand the feeling they have, because that's not a really good feeling.
Many care leavers and forgotten Australians have great difficulty with people telling them what to do. And so the staff, care staff, need to be aware how they speak and the language and the words and the tone they use to people who have come from orphanages and children's homes background.
As well as hanging on to childhood survival strategies like mistrust, abused children often bring mental health issues with them into adulthood.
It's so we were thrown on the scrap heap when we were kids, and we feel as if we're still on that scrap heap, and we're trying to get off that scrap heap.
Care leavers can suffer from anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and even nausea and sweating. Some even exhibit signs of post-traumatic stress disorder.
I think you get two streams. The feisty ones who, you know, tell you in no uncertain terms, piss off and get out of my face, to the ones that any hint of animosity or anger, they go into their shell.
Untreated childhood injuries and illnesses may still be causing the older care leaver physical pain. Care leavers may have back problems, either from being beaten or whipped on the back, or from doing adult labour as children.
Some of the men have rectal problems. They've had to have them surgically corrected because they were sodomised as little boys. I know some girls who will never have a pap smear because they were internally examined as young as 8.
As a result, many care leavers do not trust medical professionals, including care workers and RNs, and may refuse to see a doctor. Care leavers are overrepresented in groups like alcoholics or drug users because they use high-risk behaviours to escape their physical or emotional pain. There's a large task ahead to regain the trust of this group of older people. Now let's look at some specially created practical strategies you can use to help you address their unique issues in the aged care setting. One of the most important strategies is to develop trust. It's important to care leavers that promises are kept.
People wouldn't believe us. That doesn't happen. Well, it did happen in our days, but that was your days, not our days. You know, they just don't believe you.
A trust-building strategy is to listen in a non-judgmental way. Allow the person to tell their story their way.
Nobody ever bothers to ask this question. So tell me what it was like to grow up in an orphanage. And that leaves it open for people to say the good, the bad, the ugly. Don't say, oh, it must have been terrible. Well, it was terrible, but allow me to tell you what it was like.
Tim, it's lunchtime now. Can you start heading down now?
Imposing strict rules or routines may make forgotten Australians feel like they're back in a childhood institution.
We had a bell to wake us up in the morning, a bell to go to breakfast, a bell to stay in lines, such regimentation.
Make sure you politely ask forgotten Australians when and where they would like their care to take place.
The kitchen had prepared lunch. Would you like to come down and have some?
Detailed initial and ongoing assessments can tell you what the older person likes and dislikes. This can stop you from setting off unwanted behaviour by mistake. For example, care leavers may refuse to consume food or drinks that remind them of childhood institutions.
Lots of us won't eat porridge because we were fed that. A lot of people won't eat fish fingers. A lot of people won't eat anything that's got white sauce on it. Stews. There's a lot of issues with food.
Well, I wouldn't eat it. As simple as that. Because I'd be going back to what I used to do. No way.
Many care leavers must have their doors open at all times.
I don't even shut my doors in the bedroom or anything.
Keys are a big issue. If they see a lot of keys, they were often whacked with keys, but they also trigger the locking in of children.
Some forgotten Australians do not like to be touched at all. Others may be sensitive about certain places, such as their back or ears. Many forgotten Australians see care homes as just another institution where they won't be listened to or taken care of properly.
People who have grown up in orphanages haven't found their voices to speak up, and if they do speak out, they feel that there'll be repercussions and that they won't get the care that they're entitled to.
Make sure the older person and their family know they have a say and that any concerns will be taken seriously and dealt with promptly. Care leavers may be sensitive about special days and occasions, such as birthdays, Mother's Day and Father's Day. Christmas can bring back bad memories which may set off unwanted behaviour. Ron recounts his first Christmas memory with his foster mother, Mrs. Ferguson.
The Christmas pudding was given to us. There was 3 of us around the little table, not at the main table. And the lady, Mrs. Ferguson, gave us a bit of pudding each and a bit of custard. And I got frippins out of it. And I said, oh, look, I got frippins. And they said, oh, she said, give it to me, I'll mind it. But she got it and she gave it to her grandson. And she stuck it in a bit of pudding and gave it to him. So I felt a bit nasty about it. But what could I do? It's as simple as that. It brings back memories, you know, when you have a bit of Christmas pudding.
If they do not wish to participate in celebrations, respect their wishes. Despite all their childhood traumas and ongoing issues, forgotten Australians are survivors. Try to identify and then support their coping skills for various situations. Do they like to talk when upset? Do they like to be alone when annoyed? Do they find gardening uplifting when depressed? Elizabeth uses positive self-talk to cope with depression.
Sometimes when we get down and out, I'll just say to Ron, look, we're as good as the next person. In fact, we're better, right?
Compliment care leavers on things they do well.
Very good, excellent.
Thank you.
Very good.
While some care leavers have a deep dislike of organised religion, others find spirituality or religion helps them to cope.
I've always had help from above. I've always talked to him from above. It's between him and me, nobody else. And that's how I've survived.
A lot of people were sexually used by government workers, women, foster mothers, foster fathers, holiday hosts, nuns, brothers and priests.
Always ensure both men and women are asked which gender they prefer their carer to be. Many will have very strong preferences. Forgotten Australians may present with challenging behaviour, especially if their unique preferences aren't met or care staff accidentally set off a trigger. This can be extremely stressful for the care staff involved. To reduce stress, care staff should always report challenging behaviour. Managers can support their care staff by quickly addressing reports of challenging behaviour, making employee assistance programs available, and ensuring the same staff aren't always working in the space where there are older people with challenging behaviours. We've learnt about the abuse forgotten Australians were subjected to as children, identified their unique issues, and looked at strategies to address them. It should now be clear why many forgotten Australians are so resistant to aged care. We can't change the past, but people, no matter how old, who are shown understanding and respect can and do change their opinions. You now have the tools to give forgotten Australians the understanding and respect they didn't get from their childhood carers.
When we first went together, Ron was working on a place at Minto Farm, and I went out and stayed the night one night with him, and He said, oh, this is where I'm sleeping. And it was a tin shed with a wooden stretcher with bags in it to sleep on. I said, what, you sleep here? He said, yeah. I said, it's not even fit for a dog, let alone you. Oh, look, that upset me straight away. I thought, gee, you can't do these sort of things. What sort of people are they? So he left. We just got together, got married and started life together.